One of the hardest things about being a CISO is you can never turn your phone off. You're never off duty.
My daughter tells me all the time, why are you on your phone? It's Friday night. It's Sunday afternoon. And it's like, well, something came through and I have to give it the attention it deserves.
You're kissing your family goodbye and you're gone for quite a long time and you don't know when you're coming back.
Mental health challenges are real. You question yourself about, am I stable?
The challenge is looking in the mirror and saying, I've had enough.
My biggest regret is getting into this role to begin with.
The CISO's job is the single hardest job in the company.
Let me ask you something.
Why the hell would anybody want to become a CISO?
Why would anybody want to be a CISO?
You comment? Mark.
When I got into this space, there was no such thing as a cybersecurity industry, right? This is the mid-1980s, and IT and security are not things yet. Going back to the moment where cybersecurity sort of really first came to the forefront, you have to go back to the late 1980s, right? Computers are everywhere. Companies are starting to adopt computers as a core.
You had, dial-up modems, you had AOL, you had the basics for what was to become the internet, become social media, all that stuff. And so it was a very, very, very different world back then.
The thing that sort of changed, though, was the advent of networking and the dial-up modems. And now you had hackers, right? I was working for the R&D arm of the telephone companies back then. It was an entity called Bell Communications Research. And for people who aren't as old as I am, they don't remember that way back when you paid by the minute for your phone calls. So the first thing hackers did when it became a new thing was they hacked the telephone companies to get free dial tone before they then would try to go to a bank or a government or whatever. And so all of a sudden, we have people hacking the phone system. And there was this realization that there is this adversarial component to what we're doing. And when you find out that there's an adversary, the first thing you do is start to think about how do you defend yourself. And that really was the sort of very beginnings of information security. Cyber wasn't a word yet. The culture of information security in the early days was one of, holy cow, we're all in this and none of us know what the heck we're doing. So we have to figure it out together. In a lot of ways, that sort of first generation of CISOs that I was a part of was really fortunate because whether it was by accident, by luck, or whatever, that first generation had a godfather that started with us, all right? So the very first CISO is Steve Katz.
I think Steve laid the groundwork for a statement that security is a fundamental element of the way in which we approach business.
He was at Citi, and the banks, in a sense, realized that there was this whole cyber ecosystem, and there were folks doing bad things in the cyber ecosystem that could result in money being stolen.
In 1994, Citigroup got hacked, and it was the first real case where a bank got hacked and a lot of money was involved. It sent a shockwave through the banking system.
Citigroup bank card customers are being warned this morning that computer hackers may have accessed their personal information.
We all realized historically that banks were a favorite target of criminals. I mean, I don't remember the criminal that was once quoted about why did you rob a bank? And it's because that's where the money is. The same is still true, but it was the first time that someone used technology to rob a bank. We were used to the idea of someone taking a gun, walking into a bank branch and saying, give me your money. This was the first time that someone really stole money from a bank, a material amount of money, without actually walking into a branch. So I think a lot of us were talking about, holy cow, we have to think about this world differently. What are going to be the regulators' responses? Are they going to sort of overreact to this? Are they going to take it in stride? After Steve got announced in his role was, what does this really mean? And is this actually let's say, a paper exercise? Or is there some real meat behind this, right? A title is nice. The actual authority to drive change is different. The good thing from our perspective over the months that came was that it appeared the city really meant it. And it wasn't just a paper exercise. And then the really interesting thing was to see the other banks slowly adopt it. That's the biggest change in the nature of the role when Steve was stepping into the role the first time.
I think the benefit of Steve and some of these early pioneers, especially in financial services, is the fact that the banks took this so seriously that they pressed the boundaries with regards to this is good and this is bad.
Steve Katz was an advisor, a navigator. He was a mensch. Steve and I talked when I was far along in my career about the journey to serve on boards and advise others and what that looked like. And I was truly privileged to have had the opportunity to speak with him about that.
Steve was the kind of person that when you came into his circle in his life, you were in his life forever. And it influenced, honestly, the beginning of the whole culture in cybersecurity. If you look at every single person that Steve mentored, I would venture to say 99% of us all adopted this philosophy of paying it forward. I think if you looked at this sort of OG group of CISOs, almost every one of us has 100 or more people that we've mentored over time.
Sound speedy? Sound speedy. Yeah.
Cool. You being interviewed? Take one, Mark.
I happen to contribute a chapter to a book called The Life of the CISO, and I will not simply define CISO as one title per se. I think a CISO plays too many roles. I don't think it's one thing defining what is a CISO. It's a combination of many, many things.
CISO can be defined in many different ways, and there's certainly different archetypes of CISOs and different ways that people approach it. To me, a CISO is specifically someone that understands the business and understands cybersecurity and compliance practices in a way that they can define the risk to the CEO and the executive committee and the boards of the world in a way to let them make an educated risk decision.
I mean, just like any company today that has any vested interest in not having any sort of cyber incidents, or better said, cyber breaches, a CISO is required. It's their job to help a company stay out of, the front page of the New York Times for the wrong reasons.
It's someone who's always concerned about the well-being of an organization and protecting it from the evils that lurk in the adversaries.
I always say that the role of CISO is to bring bad news in a hopeful fashion. And for that, you need to be transparent and you need to be able to provide options about how we move forward and transform the estate for the organizations that you work for.
You have to understand the business, understand how attackers think, what their goals are, and you have to be able to dissect that and put that into a plan that protects the company at the end of the day.
Every company may have a slightly different things for protection purpose, but you are hired to protect the company and protect your customers and do everything you can to improve your security posture.
We're not just there to say no or slow them down or stop them from doing certain things. We're there to help them get better, enable them, move the business forward, hopefully be better, faster, more performant.
An element of what you're always expected to do as a CISO is this thing called crisis or incident management. You, in a sense, have to operate, I would say, with a high degree of resiliency yourself as an individual to be able to go into these particular events and say, hey, I know that this is really bad, but if I myself cannot manage how I'm reacting, keeping a calm head, a cool head, analyzing things and helping others kind of work through it, you're not going to do your job very well.
As you get into these types of roles, like the CISO role, sometimes people forget about themselves. It's really difficult to continue to perform, deliver in a high stakes fashion when the operator's not optimized.
One of the most important characteristics for being a CISO is personal resilience. outside of the CEO of an organization, the CISO's job is the single hardest job in the company.
Look, not everybody has the constitution to do this. There's so many opportunities to be in this field, right? If you love intelligence and you like doing testing and cracking problems, you can do that and be an important part of this community and maybe not be a CISO. For those folks who don't have great support networks at home, who don't have inherent intestinal fortitude, who aren't like ducks where it rolls off your back, you better have a lot of feathers in this role. And if you don't, there's a human toll.
It ultimately is not as rewarding as they think it would be. Like, oh, I'm going to get that title, right? I'm going to be an executive. I'm going to be able to, work at the top tiers of the organization and solve problems. The role is often a very lonely role when you think of it through an executive lens, because you're often not at the table with the rest of the executives. You're kind of at the side table.
When those leaders who hired you to do a job make you fear them, make you uncertain about your abilities, and make you feel as though they doubt you, that's what it feels like when you're not allowed to have that voice, when you don't get invited to the table on a regular basis with everyone else. That fear, uncertainty, and doubt, oddly enough, we're told not to use it, but it's what's done to us.
The ability for people to be in the role is in danger. The people in this role are not well supported. End of story.
You almost would tell people, no, you don't really want to be a CISO. And when you start to talk through all of the things that you go through in this role, then you start to realize it is the worst job I've ever wanted.
Why the hell would anybody want to become a CISO?
Why the hell does anyone want to be an EMT? Right? Why the hell does anyone want to be a firefighter? Why does someone want to run into a war zone and save people? If you have a certain set of skills and your psyche is such that you're wired that you want to do good, you're going to employ those particular skills.
I feel good when I see the company is doing the right way to protect the company. So when I see the company is helping the world, and I feel like we are doing the right thing for the company, I also feel like I have something greater good above us.
I could imagine the adrenaline junkie finding a lot of aspects of the CISO role to be highly addictive.
I get a thrill from doing hard things. And I guess there's something about doing something very hard that feels like you're coming to the rescue that motivates me.
There's actually like a personal reward we get from the good that we do.
The reward on the other side of protecting an organization and all of the employees with that organization, all of their customers and the other stakeholders and the families of all those people. And I think about it in my current role and the mission of that organization. And so the idea that you play a significant role in protecting those people and the mission for which that organization was established for, that is why you'd want to be a CISO.
Amit Yaron, another great luminary, he always said that it's all about a mission to protect the world. That's where we do cybersecurity. And the CISO is in the right place at the right time to be a service-oriented, a servant leader to help others. So for me and others that do this role, it's about what we can do to help.
I think what they have in common is a desire to protect. There are more mama and papa bears out there than you can imagine, and the world needs us.